Yom Tov, good day. This is Messianic Moment Ministries. I'm Stephen Bruck, and I welcome you. And as tonight we begin a new year, it's just a civil new year, of course, I think it would be wrong to not review some of what happened in the last year. Of course, you know that I'm going to talk about the pandemic, which I, as well as others, believe might be the long-awaited birth pains of the tribulations related to us in the Bible, which indicate the coming of Messiah Yeshua. Now, we can discuss the way that trusted organizations, namely the WHO and the CDC, have tried to hide certain facts and have skewed their reports and numbers. And although this country has always been somewhat polarized on both a racial and political level, we can talk about how it hasn't been this bad since maybe the race riots of the 1960s, and before that, probably the Civil War. You know, concern for public health care, racial tensions, political adversity, and the propagandizing media they're all working together with anarchistic elements within our government and society to try to bring this country into financial and social ruin. And what really scares me is that it seems to be working. Now, the traditional reading for Rosh HaShannah is the Akedah, the binding of Isaac we read in Genesis 22. There's one aspect of this that I find relevant to the social upheaval in the world, especially in America, and that is how the things happening in this biblical story must have seemed from Isaac's viewpoint. I mean, Isaac first starts to suspect something is off when he and Abraham are walking to Mount Moriah to sacrifice, and there's no animal. We really aren't told anything about what Isaac might have said to his father when, after building an altar, he was tied up and laid upon it. Then when Abraham drew the knife and was about to bring it down into him, I think Isaac must have thought something along the lines of, "This ain't looking very good for me." And that is how I have felt over the past 7 months, watching the news, reading the Facebook posts about violence and looting, and seeing the political advertisements about how each candidate does everything right and the other candidate does everything wrong. I mean, if we believe what we are told by the political campaigns, we are either going to be taxed to death or we'll be under a dictatorship. I feel like Isaac must have felt watching his father raise the knife. Isaac was saved at the last possible moment by God's intervention. But I do not see that happening for America or the world. This time, the knife will have to fall. With Isaac, it wasn't his time because the whole thing was a testing of Abraham's faith. But with us, now, I believe there is no longer any testing. We have proven as a country, as a world, that we prefer to sin. We prefer to ignore and reject God. And his patience has run its course. Now, yes, he has unlimited patience, but when he doesn't act to punish, it is only because he is giving us time to repent. I believe that time has come and gone. And because God is holy and cannot reject his own laws, the time for punishment has come, and I mean soon. We have bound ourselves to the altar. There's no ram waiting in the sidelines to replace us. And this is not a drill. This is the real thing. So, what can we do? Accept God's will. Trust in his judgment. And try to stay out of the trouble by avoiding the hot spots in the world. If you feel your faith isn't strong, well, better start working on it. If you know people who have not turned to God, now more than ever is the time to try to convince them to turn to God and show by example the inner peace we can have even in the midst of this terrible tsuris when we know we are with God. Look, I may be wrong, and this whole mishigas may be over after the election, depending upon who wins. Who knows? Maybe the leadership of this country will get its head back on its shoulders to straighten this mess out, because where the government's head is now, the only way to see what's happening is to peek through its belly button. Nineveh was saved by immediate and decisive action, And if we are to have any chance of saving ourselves from destruction, we also need immediate and decisive action against the terrorists working under the guise of social reform. It's all the work of the devil. So as we enter this new year, which should be a joyful celebration, let's not allow the world's disorder to ruin our fun. Of course, being Jewish, we always add a little tzoros to every happy occasion. So as we enjoy this festival, let's also reflect not just on the world's sins, but on our own as we enter the 10 days of awe approaching Yom Kippur. I wish you all a joyous and fun-filled Rosh HaShannah, and may the peace of the Ruach HaKodesh fill your heart and make you forget all about the world, even if just for a little while. Shana Tova and Happy New Year.